So Fantastic Four has quite a bit of info out by now, and it all looks pretty straightforward on the surface. Galactus is coming, the team suits up. Cosmic danger looms. But hidden beneath the retro-futuristic vibe and familiar faces is a twist that could completely change what fans thought they knew about Phase 6 of the MCU. What if the villain of First Steps isn't actually Galactus? What if this story is setting up something way more dangerous? A threat that isn't just approaching from space, but lurking within. That's what we're about to break down, so subscribe and let's get into it. At first glance, everything points to Galactus. He's enormous, he's ominous, he's literally hovering over the city like he owns the place. And yes, Julia Garner's Shalla-Bal is introduced as the Silver Surfer, his loyal herald, at least for a while. The Fantastic Four are clearly out of their depth. This isn't about stopping some mad scientist or alien warlord. This is about preventing Earth's complete annihilation. But here's the thing. Galactus is a cosmic constant. He consumes worlds not because he's evil, but because it's necessary. He's not really a full villain in the traditional sense. He's more like a hurricane or an earthquake. That's always been his portrayal in the comics, and Marvel seems to be sticking with that approach here. So if Galactus isn't the real villain we're building up to, who is? Let's back up for a second. Since Kevin Feige confirmed the Fantastic Four reboot, fans have wondered how it might connect to the multiverse saga. And recently, First Steps has dropped some major hints. It's been confirmed that this version of the Fantastic Four exists in an alternate 1960s timeline. A retro-futuristic world that's not the main MCU Earth 61 sees. This opens some huge and limitless possibilities for multiversal chaos, which Marvel has been teasing since Loki and the Multiverse of Madness. That alternate reality angle matters, because it means the Fantastic Four aren't just battling Galactus. They're representing an entire universe which is totally new to us. And it brings up a much more interesting question. What happens when universes start colliding with each other? What happens when Reed Richards and his team have to make a choice not just to stop Galactus, but to protect their timeline from something even worse and far more sinister? The Shadow of Doom. That brings us to Dr. Doom. Or more specifically, a version of Doom. Because while he's not the flashy villain in the trailers, there are steadily growing signs that he's already working on things behind the scenes. Marvel's keeping his role under wraps, but we all know by now that he's being played by none other than Iron Man himself, Robert Downey Jr. This isn't Tony Stark in a fancy suit. This is a completely new character, Victor Von Doom, from another universe, whose story might be just beginning in First Steps. But if Marvel knows what they're doing, and all signs suggest they do, Doom won't be introduced with some big speech or dramatic entrance. He'll appear subtly, maybe even as someone helpful at first, a good guy, or a background character we barely notice, because that's exactly how Doom would operate. The comics back this up. In the source material, Doom is a master manipulator. And in Secret Wars, Doom becomes the god of an entire collapsed multiverse through his plots. He steals the Beyonder's power. He rules over Battleworld, and the only person who can stop him is Reed Richards. This rivalry goes beyond cosmic. It's philosophical and personal, too, and Marvel is setting it up perfectly. Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards, Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom. They aren't just celebrity castings for rivals or enemies. They're two sides of the multiverse's moral coin. One builds, one controls, one creates, one conquers. The huge names for these characters has to mean that there's a bigger event we're being led towards, one small building block at a time. Which brings us to the secret theory. What if First Steps is actually showing us Doom's origin story, not from the beginning, but from somewhere in the middle? What if this whole Galactus showdown is just a smokescreen for Doom's first move toward multiversal domination? Think about it. Shalla-Bal, the Herald of Galactus, has a deep connection to Doom in the comics. At one point, she was brainwashed by Mephisto to believe she was a Latverian citizen, married to Doom. If Marvel explores that angle, she could be a hidden key to Doom's influence in this story. Not as Galactus' pawn like many expect, but as a potential bridge between cosmic forces and human ambition. Now let's talk about post-credits scenes. Marvel's bread and butter. If Doom doesn't show up in the main plot, he almost certainly will in one of those little scenes at the end. And not just as a tease, but as a statement. Picture it like this. Galactus is defeated. Earth is safe for now. Or maybe it even ends in failure and heartbreak. The camera moves to a hidden laboratory. Screens flicker. And there he is. Not in his armor. Not yet. But Victor Von Doom already 10 steps ahead of everyone, because that's the truth. Doom doesn't start conflicts. He waits, he watches, he calculates, and when the moment is right, he strikes. That's what makes him so dangerous. Galactus might devour planets, but Doom transforms them, not through brute force, through ideology and manipulation. And that's why he is the real villain of Fantastic Four, First Steps. Not because he destroys worlds with raw power, but instead because he believes he can fix them. Because he thinks he should be the one deciding what the multiverse becomes. That's scarier than Galactus could ever be. Marvel's long game. So if Fantastic Four, First Steps is actually about Doom, the bigger question is, why hide him? The answer is in Marvel's long-term strategy. First Steps isn't meant to be the climax, it's the initial spark. Marvel knows audiences want a new big bad to replace Kang, and they've been planting seeds gradually. After Jonathan Majors was let go, the multiverse saga needed a new anchor. Someone frightening, intelligent, and commanding. Someone with a legacy. And nobody fits that description better than Victor Von Doom. Robert Downey Jr.'s casting makes perfect sense when you look at it that way. He's not returning to play Iron Man. He's coming back to reshape the MCU's future. The man who helped launch the franchise will now help dismantle and rebuild it, piece by piece, wearing the armor of the franchise's first family's bitter nemesis. But he doesn't need to steal the spotlight just yet. Let the Galactus conflict play out. Let Reed and his team have their moment. Then just when everyone breathes a sigh of relief, reveal that the bigger threat was watching all along. One thing we know for sure is that Marvel's smartest move might be setting up Avengers. Doomsday not as the moment Doom emerges, but when he takes full control. That title isn't subtle. It's not Secret Doom or Doom Awakens, it's Doomsday. As in, the day that Doom rewrites the rules and has his way. And if Marvel's following Hickman's playbook, we're heading toward Battleworld multiversal collapse and the rise of a godlike being wearing a metal mask. But Doom isn't just some looming threat. His connection to Reed is the emotional heart of this new arc. They aren't just rivals, they're reflections of each other. Reed wants to protect reality. Doom wants to own it. And between them stands one child who could tip the scales. Franklin Richards. Confirmed to be on the way, Reed and Sue's son isn't just a subplot. He's a multiversal nuclear bomb. Born to parents exposed to cosmic rays, Franklin's powers rival the Beyonders. He can create universes, bend space-time, and in the comics, he's the reason Galactus survives. At one point, he even turns Galactus into his own herald. So when Doom looks at Franklin, he doesn't see a kid. He sees a weapon. One that, if manipulated, could make Doom's dream of reshaping the multiverse a reality. That's where First Steps starts to pivot. What begins as a fight for Earth gradually becomes a battle over Franklin's future. Not just who protects him, but who guides him. That's what makes Doom truly terrifying in this story. It's not about explosions and destruction. It's about influence, about persuasion, about convincing an all-powerful child that maybe the world should be under one man's control, that maybe chaos isn't freedom, it's a failure. And order, his order, is the only solution. And if you think this is just speculation, consider the structure Marvel has been building. The Fantastic Four movie introduces Reed, Sue, Johnny, Ben, and Franklin. It sets up Galactus. It introduces Silver Surfer, possibly Mephisto, and maybe even Red Ghost or Mole Man as distractions. But it also hints at Doom. Subtly. Behind the curtains. Just enough to make you uncomfortable. Then comes Avengers. Doomsday, where Doom takes center stage. And by the time Secret Wars arrives, Doom is the multiverse itself. The pieces are all there. The multiverse breaking down. The Council of Reeds rumored to appear. Franklin's powers growing, and Doom pulling strings behind everything. It's not about one big bad guy anymore. It's about a system collapsing under its own ambition. And Doom standing at the center of that storm, smiling behind his mask. What makes Doom's rise even more inevitable is the lack of alternatives. Kang is gone. The Beyonders haven't been introduced. Galactus isn't evil, just unstoppable. And Marvel needs someone who can be both the villain and make it personal, someone to kick off the new phase and really make it memorable as a rebirth of the MCU. And it's highly personal. Reed and Doom's conflict is inherently intimate. They were once friends, scientists, visionaries. And every time Reed saves the multiverse, Doom sees it as proof that he failed, that he could have done better, that if the world had just listened to him, things wouldn't have fallen apart. That's why Doom will take everything, because he believes he's earned it. And if Franklin ends up caught between them, it'll break Reed like nothing else could. A battle not just for survival, but for ideology, for family, for the soul of the multiverse itself. And that's the twist. Doom isn't the destroyer of planets. He's the destroyer of truths. The villain who truly believes he's the hero. And in this new chapter of the MCU, he might actually be right. For a time. Marvel isn't just building toward another team-up movie. They're building toward a NWE era. one where everything the MCU has created gets tested, rewritten, or lost. And Doom is the one holding the pen. If First Steps unfolds the way it seems to be set up, Galactus is just the distraction. Doom is the master behind the scenes, and every move Reed makes to protect his world will only bring Doom closer to controlling all worlds as he stretches himself too thin. This isn't just about a reboot. It's not just about Secret Wars. It's about what comes after. Who shapes it? Who writes the rules? Last time it was Tony Stark. This time it might be Victor Von Doom. And his Iron Fist would be the biggest challenge any hero could possibly go up against. So what do you think about this theory? Do you believe it's all building up to a conquest by Doom, or is it just wishful thinking? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, drop it a like, and if you want to see more Marvel and DC content, click the video on screen now.